Ladies and gents, how we doing? Welcome back to TSF Live, Monday's edition, and we have lots to talk about. Looking back at the weekend's Scottish Cup results, including one particular. Just when Kieran's done yawning, we'll keep going. You're right there, son. You're a bit tired.
I'm shattered. We shattered, boy.
So yeah, we might as well kick off. I've got Ryan and Kieran with me, who are both eager to talk about this game. For one reason, first of all, Celtic weren't playing, so they couldn't upset the two of them over the course of the weekend. And also, Rangers made an absolute James Blunt of it at Ibrox yesterday. So we'll kick off with that, Kieran. It was one of the most, last week there was all those tweets about this is football. That was the definition of that yesterday with Zander Clark and St Johnstone.
Exactly. I mean, it's the sort of fairy tale in the cup that you love to see, especially against Rangers. I mean, it was perfect. I mean, obviously we're in no position to make any real jokes this season, but it's just there's been a lot of back and forth on Twitter over the past 24 hours, and it's been a joy to see. But it's nice to have it back. But no, it was a poor result for Rangers. For the very fact it went to extra time, just showed they weren't at the top of their game. But when they scored, I thought that must have been it. Like, surely no. And then big Zander Clark steps up, and here we are.
Yeah, it's absolutely. So I think obviously they played each other midweek as well, and that was a draw. Then 120 minutes yesterday. So in all that time, Rangers couldn't beat St Johnstone McGinley, and they kind of will come on to the heroics of Zander Clark and all that. But for a Rangers point of view, they've only really got themselves to blame. They're absolutely games they should be winning, especially at home.
Yeah, I mean, they had their name on the cup basically after they beat us. You would think you would have thought they'd won the cup in the comments and that all over Twitter. But no, St Johnstone have been great. They've been great all season. They've been bringing out those sort of results all season. They deserve it. Callum Davidson for the Celtic job.
What a boy. I'm feeling so validated because I've been riding this Callum Davidson hype train right at the start of the season when people doubted him. Then he goes and wins the League Cup. And then after that, I jokingly kind of say, St Johnstone are going to win the double. And now I'm looking at, oh my God, they've actually got a serious chance. Let's just talk about this for a second, right? St Johnstone have a serious chance of winning the Cup double this season, Kieran. That is fucking barmy.
I know, it's seemingly unheard of, but I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliant for Scottish football, the fact that somebody outside the old firm could go and win not just one, but two cups in one season. I mean, people always people are trying to compare him to Tommy Wright, and if it could match the job that he done, but he's now seemingly on track to maybe get a cup double, so that is nuts, especially for his first season.
It's mad, and obviously they won it in a really dramatic fashion yesterday. But throughout that game, Rangers always are going to dominate possessions in these games, Ryan, and they're going to have lots of chances. But Saints had big chances themselves. Alan McGregor made a couple of big saves, and the longer that game went on, you just kind of had a feeling that if Saints could stay in it, they'd have a chance. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were very much in the game. I can only say from highlights because I was working at the time, so I was trying to catch up on my phone, checking every sort of 5 or so minutes, but from what the highlights looked like they were very much in the game. They had a lot of good chances. McGregor had to pull off a couple of great saves, as did Zander Clark, two of the best players on the pitch, with two goalkeepers. But that shows you how far St Johnstone have came under Callum Davidson, because I've got to be honest, I touted them for relegation this season after Tommy Wright leaving. But I mean, they're in the top 6 and they deserve to be there.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable job they've done. We've got a £5 super chat from Jordan Ward. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate that. He's in hope for 3 different silverware holders this season. So I don't know if he's a Hibs or Dundee United fan, maybe, but I mean, it is. I mean, I know obviously because we've come so accustomed to Celtic winning trebles that the idea of 3 different cup holders is kind of gone, Kieran. But as you said earlier, the idea of St Johnstone winning a cup, I think, I agree with you, is brilliant for Scottish football. The more that clubs outside the old firm can win, it shows that there's more than just Celtic and Rangers up here.
I know, it's the perfect scenario for the neutral point of view, because people always look at Celtic over the past few years dominating, winning every trophy available, and they've it's been great for us. I think it's made people sort of look down on Scottish football a bit, that bit more. But obviously it doesn't really matter what other people think, but it's just when it's maybe getting portrayed in that light, it doesn't bode too well for the game in terms of competitiveness. But I don't really buy into that argument, but it is nice to see other teams getting in with a real chance twice in the one season as well, to try and get a trophy.
Yeah, it's absolutely mad, and we'll come on to the semi-final later, like the clubs in it and what that means. But just again on this game yesterday, I don't know if you were watching it, McGinley. I was watching it, and once Tavernier scored, I turned it off. Oh, that's fine. Rangers through, fine. They've done the business. And then I get this notification on flash scores from my phone saying that 120 minutes St Johnstone scorer Clark, and I'm thinking, who the fuck what Clark have they got that plays outfield? What's going on there? And then I checked Twitter, and I was like, no fucking way, the goalie's just scored. I was like, what? I mean, that is one of the most unbelievable Scottish Cup moments, Ryan. I know, listen, we know Chris Kane gets credited with it, right? And as much as that's a big boo-hoo, no one's going to remember that Chris Kane scored that goal. It's all going to be about Zander Clark. It's just unbelievable.
It's going to be one of those goals that you remember the assist more than the goal, because down the line in history, you'll probably remember it as Zander Clark scoring the goal rather than Chris Kane getting the tap in. But it's mental. It's mental to see a goalkeeper causing that much havoc in the box, because you see that so many times. Teams get desperate towards the end of the game, and the goalkeeper maybe bumps into somebody else, or he causes havoc for his own team. But it's great to see the goalkeeper coming through for his team.
It was
I
absolutely
always thought it was quite pointless, but like, see with the goalie going up, I always thought it was just a sort of for show thing. Like, I think that's the first time I've proper witnessed it paying off, and it's brilliant to see. But
there's like a really small handful of just like times when it's happened. I think of that Jimmy Glass one. Was it, who was he played? Was it Hartlepool or Carlisle or something? Who like the goalie scored to save him relegation. There's very rare occasions it happens, but
actually, I saw a couple of months ago too. He wasn't even an actual player. He was like a
wild, absolutely mad. But I saw a great video on Twitter last night. It's from Family Guy when Peter's cutting about with the soldiers, and he's dressed as a clown, and he's like, they're all going to be looking for soldiers, and that's Zander Clark in the box. Nobody picked him up. He's one of the biggest guys, and he's standing in the 6-yard box unmarked. It's shambolic, to be honest, Kieran, from a Rangers point of view. And having done, a bad day at the office, they get the goal, you think, right, we're through now. For them to throw it away, I mean, it's gonna rear those questions about character again.
I know. I mean, I seen Ryan put a comment in here about Rangers and Gerrard in the Scottish Cup and other cup competitions about having the bottle for it and that. And I suppose it does come down to knockout football. I know they put us out in the last round, but even if you look back at the past few seasons, it's no the cup. The thing's just no. It doesn't look that good on Steven Gerrard and his players, but I suppose they've obviously done the business in the league this year, and that's all they really cared about. But I suppose when you get to this stage where the league's been wrapped up, surely the cup would have been of utmost importance to try and get a double, and for that to just be lost in such a fashion as Zander Clark getting the assist and then going out in penalties, that's just simply delightful. But
well, I mean, it's one of those moments that for the neutral, it's absolutely fantastic, and for you lot, it's even more fantastic. But the Gerrard Cup thing is a really interesting one, because they've seemed to have nailed it in Europe, where they do really well over two legs in Europe. That they've got the formula for that. Now, we had this discussion in the podcast last week, and my thing was, but sure, they're playing St Johnstone at home. If they do that in the league, they're going to win. It's going to be 3 points. It's what they've done. So, Ryan, what is the difference? I know it's knockout football, right? But why can't they just approach it like they would do a league game and just turn the teams over like they have been doing? I don't understand why they seem to have this problem in the cup, because they had it with St Mirren early in the season.
I don't know. Maybe for the St Mirren one, St Mirren were just brilliant on the night. But I feel like the fact that they put Celtic out in the last round, maybe that was the biggest high that they could get to, and it was maybe a come down trying to play a team like St Johnstone. They might have already thought that they'd. Like I said before, they'd already had their name on the trophy, so maybe they didn't get up for it as much as they could have done. But I mean, it's good. It's good for the Scottish game to see St Johnstone doing well, and I think it'll be tight in terms of the teams that are left in the competition.
Yeah. I love this comment for a number of reasons. First of all, Dunfermline, man. It's like, what a shit superhero he'd be, by the way, Dunfermline, man. Talk about Gerrard failure once again. Why is he not sacked, but Lennon was? Don't beat about the bush. Shouldn't he be sacked? Now, I'm going to suggest that might be a slight overreaction. Now, listen, obviously, they're disappointed to get knocked out of the cup, but Steven Gerrard's goal this season was to win the league, and there's a big reason why Neil Lennon got sacked and Steven Gerrard hasn't been. I mean, just watch any bit of content from any Scottish football creator over the last 6 months and you'll find out all about it. But yeah, I mean, it's a mad one. There's a lot of what I find interesting, Kieran, is I know that when Ronnie Dyler was at Celtic, Rangers weren't in the league, but he took endless criticism for not winning trebles. You know, that back then was probably the reason he didn't keep his job, was that he got put at the cup. And for Gerrard now, I mean, I know that this is their first league title in terms of a trophy-winning side. It's very early on for them, but this is a massive disappointment, because that's 2 runs at the cup they've had that have been really favourable, and they've made an arse of both of them.
I know. I mean, this year it's been. I keep saying it on Twitter, but it's absolutely true. This was the absolute golden opportunity to try and get a treble, and they've blown it big time because with Celtic being out, I know Celtic haven't been the best competition this season. We've been very poor, but I'm just meaning like with the other biggest team out of the competition, you would think they would go on and take it and just they'd win it with no problem really. And then for them, if went out the round after Celtic and the both of them, it's just it just doesn't look too good on them. But going back to what you said about Ronnie Dyler as well, it was like back then it was sort of like the expectancy would have been for him to win a treble because people were thinking, oh, Rangers aren't in the league, perfect chance. Like it's the same with Rangers this season. This was their perfect chance to go and get one, and they couldn't do it. But I mean, you could argue the whole thing about Ronnie Dyler not getting the treble with the game against Inverness. It was a bit dodgy decision, but nah. At the same time, you can't. Things like that just happen in football, so you can't really grudge it.
Stevie's not happy with me. Gerrard won one trophy out of 9. Can I put G. Lennon in 1 more trophies in 1 season? Is he not getting sacked because his name is Steven Gerrard? No, he's not getting sacked because he won the league title. Mate, I don't know if it was a month or so ago now, but I mean, yeah, I find it a bit strange that people would. Obviously, I don't think Stevie's a Rangers fan, but we'll leave it there. On to the penalties, because I was amazed. Obviously, James Tavernier takes the first one. You're thinking, right, well, if anyone's got practice at taking penalties in Scottish football, it's him, because he gets about 3 every game. And it was the worst of the bunch, Ryan. It was just horrific. It wasn't hard. There was no power. There was no placement. It looked like a tired penalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just straight down the middle, but Zander Clark sort of put his arm out and save it. It was pretty easy for him to deal with in the end of the day, and you'd expect Tavernier to sort of put down a message or put down a statement or going down to one side or the other and get his team 1-0 up, but obviously that wasn't the case.
Ewan with a wee pop at Rangers there. I'll let the people read that. We've also got Beans in the chat. Eddie Howe announced in 3 weeks, and so off we go. Yeah, I mean, we'll come on to Celtic at some point. I'm sure you guys will have a bit of a discussion about Celtic and the Celtic Thunder, but I mean, the final point on Rangers, Kieran, they look to me like a team that they just look knackered, which is very strange because the league's been wrapped up. They've not had, they've been out. I don't know. It's a really strange one. They do look to me like a team that wasn't at the sort of fitness levels they were and maybe the determination they were pre-sealing the title. They seem to me like they're happy with the title. That was the way they kind of looked to me. They didn't look like they were really playing for this cup and that was that important. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's maybe just down to the mentality because obviously, as you said, the league was the be-all and end-all this season. They went out and done it, fair enough. But if they wanted to go out and win the cup, you need to keep up that level of intensity. It's not enough to just turn up to games and expect to win them because you are Rangers and you won the league this season. And it goes to show St Johnstone put them out because they weren't at the top of their game yesterday. And teams like that are able to punish the big teams when they don't turn up. And I don't know, it's just the whole thing with last night that I took for it was the comparisons that have been drawn between this team and the 16-17 Celtic Invincible team. And I'm just glad that this can finally put it to bed because there's not even any discussion to be had anymore.
Yeah, it's a really tough one. I remember having this discussion. Me and Ryan Dev had this on the podcast a month or so ago. And my thing at the time was, I wasn't saying, I mean, at that point, Rangers still could have won the double. They still could have. So it was early to judge. Now, I agree with you. It's kind of hard now to make a serious case for this Rangers team being better than that Celtic team. And what I don't like in terms of the argument that gets made is that Celtic had no competition. Well, who's been Rangers' competition this season? Because Celtic have been absolutely woeful, as Rangers were back when Celtic won in trebles. If anything, for me, I look at St Johnstone as being a really good team there. I look at Hibs. I look at Aberdeen. Although Aberdeen haven't had a great season, these teams are still there or thereabouts. Yeah. Listen, they deserve credit because they'll probably still win the league unbeaten, which is a wonderful achievement. But yeah, it's a tough one. And it'll certainly make those, when people do those combined 11 videos, as I'm sure Ryan will probably do at some point, he'll be able to heavily cite it towards Celtic now. Yeah, so we'll move on from that. Again, any questions from everyone in the chat, we'll come back to them at the end about that game. But let's move to the game at Easter Road. A cracking cup tie, this, by the way. Kieran, you mentioned before we came on air that it was a game that just screamed bad defending for you. And it wasn't a great deal of top quality defensive work. Hibs looked like they had it won. Doidge and Jackson Irvine with goals, then Ricky Lamy and Tony Watt took it to extra time. But a proper cup tie, that, Kieran.
I know. I mean, for them to pull it back, I was impressed because I'm pretty sure on Friday I said I thought Hibs would have won it pretty convincingly. I didn't think Motherwell would have made too much of a show of themselves, but they proved me wrong. I mean, I know they end up losing it, but to take it to penalties, especially being 2-0 down, but as you mentioned there about the defence, just a couple of occasions I was watching it, I was just thinking that is proper poor, because it's just no defensive coordination from Motherwell at certain points. They just looked so vulnerable when they were on the attack, and every cross ball just seemed as if there was somebody getting on the end of it. Just too easy for the attackers at some points, but I know, a decent game.
Yeah, for Hibs it's an interesting one, Ryan, because obviously you look at the Hibs squad. I think it's a really good squad that Jack Ross assembled. They obviously are going to finish third. It looks like they didn't have. They got the semi-final League Cup defeat was disappointing considering the run-in, and it'll probably be a similar scenario in the Scottish Cup. But to me, that sums up Hibs. They've got goals in them, but they've still got this softness at the back. And to go and capitulate at that, 8 minutes to go, you're 2-0 up, and albeit they do go out and win the tie, that was a kind of good metaphor for Hibs this season has gone.
Hibs the past couple of years, you could say as well. I know I don't want to use the term Hibs it, but they tried their best.
They almost did, yeah.
I thought if any team was going to win it in the 90 minutes, it was looking like Motherwell, because they got to each and they looked dangerous. I thought if it was going to extra time, I thought Hibs would sneak it, obviously due to the better players on the pitch. But they took the penalties, and then it becomes a monopoly at that point. I'm trying to think back to the penalty shootout. I was trying, because I was knackered.
My boy Nisbet missed. I was really upset.
I was thinking that. I was like, he's definitely going to score here, and then he missed. I was like, Dave will be gutted. The fans will be going to a halt for a wee bit. No, Hibs will be happy they're through to the semi-finals. I think they're the favourites now. I think Hibs will be the favourites. They've got probably the best side that's left in the competition.
I think that's a nightmare scenario for them, but
I was just going to ask you that,
being the favourites, because it happened in the League Cup as well, and everybody sort of put that pressure on them, and I don't think Hibs have got what it takes to take that pressure. I think they prefer being the sort of underdog going into, if it was a final against Rangers, they'd fancy their chances more, but I don't know. I just don't think that suits them whatsoever.
I think they've had a great season. Third place is a great finish for Hibs.
Well, this is what I was just going to say, Ryan. So obviously, if you get to, say they get to the semi-final, get put in the semi-final, 2 cup semi-finals in third place, I don't care what anyone says, that's a really good season for Hibs, right? Yes, there's always disappointment looking at who's left in the cups, and as you make the point, I think it works against them, and that the pressure's now on them. I don't think they've got the... I don't want to say strength of character, because I think that might be a bit harsh, but they're not a team that's used to having the expectation of winning silverware. None of these teams are, admittedly, but naturally everyone's going to say, right, it's going to be Hibs for the cup now. Whereas I actually don't think there's a great deal between Hibs, St Johnstone, St Mirren on their day, Dundee United on their day. They're all very evenly matched. So it's going to make for an interesting set of semi-finals. Ryan Porteous, though, Kieran, got the winning penalty. I don't know if you saw that. That was, I was thinking he's going to sky this. Cool as a cucumber, the big fella.
I know, it was actually quite a good penalty. I've seen it, but see when Nisbet missing his penalty, did he miss a penalty against us earlier in the season as well?
He missed one against Hearts in the cup semi-final. I'm sure he scored one against Celtic, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
See, I wasn't sure if he scored it or he missed it and he got scored in the rebound.
That sounds right, actually. Yeah, that sounds right. But
it was just like, I seen him missing it, and it just brought back a memory of that. I was like, he's a great striker, but in terms of... It's the same with Tavernier letting Rangers down for the penalty spot. Obviously, it didn't end up mattering. But
the tough one with Nisbet for me is it looks to me like he'll be in the Scotland squad now. I think that's based on the way things are going. But I think everyone forgets this. He's gone from playing League One, a season in League One, a season in the Championship, and now his first season in the Prem. And because he started so well, when he petered off a little bit, it's a bit like, I don't know, people have maybe got expectations that are a bit too high for him. He's had a good first season, and we'll see. On you go, Ryan.
Sorry, I think he's acclimatised better to the Premiership than Shankland has. I'll be perfectly honest.
Yes, definitely. I said that would happen, and the reason I thought it would happen is because I watched the two of them a lot last year. Obviously, Dunfermline had Nisbet and Shane Shankland in the Championship. Lawrence Shankland's very much an 18-yard box player. He needs the ball in the box to know. He's a great finisher, and that's why I've always actually thought for a Celtic or Rangers there'd be worse options out there than a backup striker like him, because if you create chances for him, he's a brilliant finisher. Whereas Nisbet can play from deep, he can run channels, his hold-up's really good. So, yeah, and that's why I think he'll acclimatise better to international football. But we'll come on to that again later. My phone's just died, so we'll have to go and use the notes I've got on my laptop. So we both kind of, I think Hibs will be favourites for that now, but it'll be tough. Anyway, we'll move on to probably I was going to say the surprise result, but obviously not, because that was at Ibrox. But Aberdeen, who have had a wee upturn since Stephen Glass came in. But Stephen Glass has taken on a team that couldn't score goals, but we're okay at the back to know a team that can't defend either, Brian. So a bit of a disaster for Aberdeen at Pittodrie.
It took us 92.5 minutes for us to score against Aberdeen. It took Dundee United 18 minutes. Mental how football works. But I was watching the highlights again before I came on here. Aberdeen did have a couple of really good chances before Dundee United scored. It was just one of those games that once Dundee United scored once, they scored 3 times as it turned out. But
yeah,
I think that's one of the surprise results, because I thought Aberdeen would have won this, especially at Pittodrie.
Yeah, and it was a real chance, Kieran, for Stephen Glasgow in there, so a lot of questions asked about that appointment by Aberdeen fans as well as everyone else. That was a real decent chance for him to go and win the cup this year, and that would have been the perfect start. But I think that result yesterday just highlights the work he's going to have to do next season.
I know, I've heard a lot of people sort of, after the midweek game against us, people kind of praising Aberdeen and getting the wee upturn you were talking about. But I mean, that game at the weekend, as you said, shows that there is a lot of work to be done from in the summer, because obviously you've got Scott Brown gone in there, could even have wee tea cake following him up. But I think they've got potential to be a good squad if they can keep their current best players and obviously improve on that. But in terms of that game at the weekend, as Ryan said, it was just a case of they were playing all right to begin with. Dundee United keeper made a couple of good saves. Yep. But it was just poor, like, defensively, in terms of so many. You got to credit Dundee United, but so many defence splitting passes. It just took so many players out of the game, and they made it look really easy. And I think you've got to try and close people down quicker. You can't allow people that sort of space.
Yeah, I think that, I know that Aberdeen had lots of the ball in that game, but looking at you just have to look at the Dundee United lineup. They've got 3 strikers playing, Nicky Clark, Lawrence Shankland and Mark McNulty. All 3 of them have got goals in them. So they're quite happy to sit back in games like that and counter. And they're a really dangerous side. And it comes back to what I said earlier, and that you're now going to have 4 teams in the quarter-final all can beat each other on the day, and it wouldn't be great deals of a shock. But Ryan, Kieran mentioned there about obviously Scott Brown and wee T-Cake going up to Aberdeen. If T-Cake goes to Aberdeen, that'll be 18 months in his return to full fitness. He'll still be on that thing, because he's on that big journey to full fitness. Every time he gets a wee minute here and there, he might get back. But genuinely though, Scott Brown is a type that I think will be an unbelievable signing for Aberdeen next season, because they're a team that are struggling for a bit of character at the moment, and just the difference his mentality will make to them will be huge.
He's a born winner at the end of the day. I mean, he's been used to winning trophies. I know he's only maybe won last season's Scottish Cup this season, but he's a born winner. He's won trophies all his career basically at Celtic, and that's good for a sort of mentality shift at Aberdeen, because it might bring them more belief when they're coming up against Celtic and Rangers that they can get a result if they have that sort of man in the dressing room. Maybe Griffiths as well would help. I think his time's up at Celtic, I'll be perfectly honest. I think if Aberdeen or Hibs could snap him up, then that would be a good signing for the Scottish League, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's for all that he's rightly taken a load of stick this season, Kieran. Aberdeen needs somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net, and even if he's half fit, he's still going to be a better option than what they've got. So, listen, I don't know if there's a great deal actually in the rumour, if it's just a natural thing people think will happen. But, I mean, I don't know. I think that if you're Aberdeen, there's going to be we talk about Celtic's overhaul, there will be an overhaul at Aberdeen as well.
Yep.
See, I think it's the perfect move for Griffiths, if I'm honest. I mean, he gets to go up with Scott Brown, and it helps the Aberdeen squad massively. I know I say that he's not good enough to start for Celtic, that's a given, but I think, as Ryan said, either at there or Hibs, I think it's the perfect level for him to play at. Keep them in the Scottish game, and it does help improve the other clubs about us. But it's just, like, when you look at the options that Aberdeen have got to now, they went all out in January to get Fraser Hornburn, they got Hendry to St Johnstone, and then they got Flo Canberry, and none of them have really hit the ground running. And you just need, especially at a team like Aberdeen or Hibs, you need a striker that's going to be prolific for you and get most of the goals, because at these teams, against a lot of the clubs in the league, you're going to have a lot of the ball. But in terms of Celtic and Rangers, I feel like we can trust our other players or wingers or centre mids to chip in with goals because they're higher quality. But I think these teams may rely on a proper striker to go and get them. I think he would bring that.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would be. If Aberdeen signed Lee Griffiths and he went and scored 20 goals next season, I don't think anyone would be that surprised, because he has got that in him. And also, listen, I don't think he'll go to the Euros. I don't want him to go to the Euros because I just don't think he deserves it. But if he goes and gets a run of games, he is going to put himself back in the picture of the Scotland squad as well. But yeah, at this point for Aberdeen, Dundee United will be delighted. Just finally, Ryan, on Dundee United, a little bit of talk in the last couple of weeks about Mickey Mellon moving on. to go to Doncaster, who are interested. Now, he's a really interesting one this season, and Dundee United are a really interesting case in terms of, obviously, a newly promoted side naturally just stay in the league, but because it's Dundee United, and Hearts will suffer from this as well, there was a lot of cries about they should get top six. They didn't quite make it. I think Dundee United have had a really good season, and the fact that they're now in a Scottish Cup semi-final just adds to that for me.
Yeah, I think the fact that they're in the semi-final definitely helps their case in terms of being a good, solid season. I mean, they've not really been in any relegation trouble at all this season, so it's a stable return to the top flight. It took them, didn't it take them a couple of years to get back up in the first place?
Oh, I think they were down for 3 or 4 years. They were down for ages, yeah. But I think the strange thing is Shankland, he started off with a few injuries and then it took a while to get going. And his goals have dried up again a little bit recently, but he hasn't hit the form they would have relied on him to. So I think the fact that they've been able to adapt, I'll do quite well. And listen, all 4 of the teams that will be in the semi-final have got a really good chance of winning the cup here. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll just move on to the final cup game, which is happening tonight. Kilmarnock play St Mirren. Now, St Mirren have had a really, really good season. Obviously, disappointment in not making the top 6. It's quite evident for Jim Goodwin and his side. But you look at that game tonight, Kieran, and I'm thinking, right, St Mirren you'd probably fancy because they've had a better season. But Kelly now, with Kyle Lafferty flying, you wouldn't put it past Kelly winning that one.
I know, I said this on Friday on the live show then. I fancied Kelly for it. I think Adam and Ryan both went for St Mirren. And you can make the argument that St Mirren probably do play the better football. They have had the better season, but Kelly have just got that pure end of season mentality now where they've gone out and getting the wins they need to. And obviously Kyle Lafferty's been a huge part of that. But no, I don't know. I just fancy them to go and get the result tonight. I don't know if it'll be pretty, but I can just see them nicking it.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think Kelly will take this tonight. And a lot of it is down to the fact that I mentioned it on the podcast last week. When you've got the split, you've got St Mirren, who else is in the bottom half at the top? St Mirren, Dundee United, and who else is down there? I'm trying to think of the other team that I'm thinking of. There's the bottom 3, St Mirren, Dundee United, and who's the other one? Livy or Livy top 6? Anyway, the point I'm making is that you've got the teams at the bottom who are playing for something, they're fighting for something. Kelly are one of those. They're in a mentality just now, every game has to be a win. They've started picking up points, they've got players scoring. So, I mean, it really wouldn't surprise me if Kelly went and won this, Ryan. And also, we talk about the stories that are in play here in terms of the Scottish Cup. For Tommy Wright coming back into the game, going into Kelly, looks like he's going to keep them up. The potential of winning a Scottish Cup, you are, absolutely turning what looked like a train crash of a season into potentially, a really memorable one.
Yep, absolutely. And he's got previous with winning the Scottish Cup before. He's done it for St Johnstone in 2013-14 season. So he's got experience. I know Jim Goodwin's. Did he win the Scottish Cup as a player?
He won the League Cup.
League Cup. I remember that. Funnily enough,
don't remember what competition it was though.
It's a Monday. It's one of those Mondays, mate. But it'll be an interesting game. I've got to be honest. I fancy Kelly as well. I think Kyle Lafferty will chip in with the goals. He seems to be banging them in recently, and he's a goal scorer. And these teams need goal scorers.
Yeah,
and he's doing the difference. So it'll definitely be an interesting game. That's for sure.
And again, it's the story of this, the semi-final draw, wherever the draw will be. Any team now that wins this tonight, their fans will think, right, this is going to be our year. They're all going to be thinking that now without having a bit of the big 2, Kieran. We'll come on to at the end when we get our predictions for who will win it. But, I mean, out of those 2 teams tonight, I know you think Kelly are going to go through. Which one of the 2 do you think would be best placed to go all the way, though? Because I think that's a slightly different question. And can we see Kelly winning 3 big games, like winning a semi-final and a final, when they haven't been able to win consecutively throughout the season?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd fancy either of them to actually go in and win it all, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't know. You'd maybe think St Mirren would be better suited just because of the fact they have had a better season. But I don't know. Then again, you have got the argument what we spoke about just a wee minute ago about how Kelly have got that mentality to go out and get the result now. But I don't know. I'd have to maybe lean towards St Mirren for that question. But,
just finally, Ryan, if St Mirren do make it through, they will have the luxury of being able to rest players for a semi-final, whereas a Kilmarnock won't. They're still firmly trying to fight for their safety. Whether or not that'll be a factor, we'll see. Did we get a prediction off you, Ryan? I can't remember if we got one off you.
I think it'll be a Kelly win.
Wow, all 3 picking Kelly. Wow.
Yeah, I feel like they've got a goal scorer in the team. They've got a manager that knows how to win these sort of games, and he's got plenty of experience. I'm not saying Jim Goodwin doesn't have experience, but Tommy Wright's won this. And Kelly are at home as well. So I think it'll be a narrow Kelly victory.
Interesting. Well, that game's on tonight. We'll review that on the podcast tomorrow. Just before we come to the end of tonight's live show, everyone, any questions in the chat, fire them in just now. In the meantime, I'm going to pose a question to the two boys here. Zander Clark, we spoke about him earlier. Craig Gordon and David Marshall will go to the Euros, but the third goalie spot is very much up for grabs. Is he an outside shout for you, Kieran?
I mean, I don't know if people might just be getting a wee bit carried away, but obviously there's been plenty of times where he's popped up with really important saves in games, and obviously you can take away the whole assist for that goal last night thing. That's just a novelty. But in terms of being a goalkeeper, he's somebody that I'm not going to lie, I've not really rated too much in previous seasons. But I don't know, it just seems every so often, especially in these bigger games, he just pulls a blinder. And I don't know, he's certainly in with a shout, but I don't know if I'd take him, to be honest.
He's one of these ones, McGinley, that I have always think he does. Over the course of his career, he's probably deserved to get called up, and it's not happened for him yet. The one person I think he'll really be competing with, and Lewis Ledge put this in the comments, is Liam Kelly, who's flying at Motherwell just now. Can you see either one of those taking that third spot?
I can definitely see them taking the third spot because they've both done really well this season. I think Zander Clark's been consistent over a number of years. He's always been so reliable for St Johnstone. He always comes up with big saves. Whenever St Johnstone pull off a great victory against one of the bigger sides, it's usually Zander Clark that's heavily involved with making that happen. So, I mean, it's good that we've got plenty of choice for goalkeepers. I know we've got a couple down south that can maybe come in as well. But I would take one of the Scottish League goalkeepers, even to just give them experience of being in and around the team.
Yeah. Just finally, before we round things off, actually, I'll ask this question first. Cracking question. James McKenzie asks, who would win the fight between Brian Rice and John Yogi Hughes? Now, I'm going to side with Big Chipper because I think he would batter everyone in the Scottish Premiership Managers Club. I think you'd have them all, Kieran.
I know, the guy looks stuck there, wouldn't he, back against him?
Mate, you would not want to mess with Big Chipper.
Not a chance.
I love questions like this. Just fascinating about the personalities of managers in the top flight. Anyway, just finally before we go, who's winning the cup, Ryan?
Hibs.
Wow. Okay, nice.
I think they'll win it.
Kieran?
No, I'm just going to be different. I'll go Dundee United.
Wow,
but
okay.
See another point, but quickly, see whoever wins the Scottish Cup. It's really different this year because there's a certain different element this time round that it's guaranteed European group stage football for whoever wins it. So that is a major incentive for these teams to go out and get their all. I know, obviously, certain teams might be involved in the relegation scrap if they get through, i.e. Kelly, but what an incentive that is for you actually go out and guarantee yourself European group stage football, and even a qualifier to go out and do that. That would be something else for these clubs. Absolutely.
And it is great. I love the idea of having 4 teams out of the big 2 in the cup semi-finals. Like, it's great for the game, and also it gives me this little bit of hope that maybe Dunfermline one day could be there, but we'll have to see. I'm sticking with St Johnstone because I backed them about a month ago for the cup double, and I'm going to stick with it. Callum Davidson, if he wins the cup double, manager of the year without a shadow of a doubt, he's probably a good shout for that anyway, just having reached the semi-final, I would say. But yeah, that's going to do us 35 minutes tonight. Good wee show. Enjoyed that. We'll be back tomorrow with the podcast. Me, Ryan and Div. You might see more of these two fine gentlemen throughout the week on the live shows. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you later.